Cleopatra VII, the last pharaoh of Egypt, was the first of her Greek Ptolemaic dynasty to speak Egyptian, a bold break from tradition. In a world where rulers often kept themselves apart from their subjects, Cleopatra's decision to learn the native tongue was more than symbolic. It was a declaration. She was not just a foreign queen, but a true daughter of Egypt, determined to bridge the gap between her Greek heritage and the ancient land she ruled. She was a scholar queen, fluent in at least 9 languages, using her intellect as a political weapon in a world ruled by force. Her education was legendary, encompassing philosophy, mathematics, astronomy, and medicine. Cleopatra surrounded herself with scholars and thinkers, drawing wisdom from every corner of the Mediterranean. Her sharp mind allowed her to negotiate with kings and generals, and to outwit rivals both at home and abroad. Alexandria, her capital, was a dazzling center of wealth and learning, home to the legendary library and the lighthouse, one of the 7 wonders. The city's bustling streets echoed with the voices of poets, scientists, and philosophers. Ships from distant lands crowded its harbors, bringing exotic goods and new ideas. Under Cleopatra's rule, Alexandria flourished as a beacon of culture and innovation, attracting the brightest minds of the ancient world. Cleopatra inherited this kingdom at 18, stepping into a court rife with intrigue and danger, where family rivalries often turned deadly. The palace halls were filled with whispers and plots, and every alliance was fragile. She faced not only the ambitions of her siblings, but also the expectations of a nation longing for stability and strength. Her education was as much about survival as it was about philosophy and languages. From a young age, Cleopatra learned that knowledge was power, and that wisdom could be a shield against betrayal. She studied the histories of Egypt's greatest rulers, seeking lessons in leadership and resilience. She learned to navigate a treacherous court, where her own siblings were her fiercest rivals. Every gesture, every word could tip the balance between life and death. Cleopatra's ability to read people and situations became her greatest asset, allowing her to survive where others fell. Cleopatra was no mere seductress. She was a strategist determined to preserve Egypt's independence as Rome's shadow grew. She understood the art of diplomacy as well as the necessity of strength, forging alliances and making bold decisions to protect her people. Her leadership inspired loyalty and fear in equal measure. She saw her kingdom as a civilization worth defending, and she wielded every tool, her mind, her charm, her wealth, to do so. Cleopatra's reign was marked by her relentless pursuit of Egypt's prosperity and autonomy. She negotiated with the world's most powerful men, never forgetting her duty to her people and her land. Her reign would become a battle for Egypt's very soul, a struggle not just for power but for the survival of a culture, a legacy, and a dream that had endured for centuries along the banks of the Nile. Cleopatra's reign began not as a solitary queen, but in a tense partnership with her much younger brother, Ptolemy the Firtate. Though they were meant to rule together, the reality was far from harmonious. Cleopatra, already displaying intelligence and ambition beyond her years, found herself in a court rife with intrigue and suspicion. The throne they shared was less a symbol of unity and more a battleground for power, with each sibling surrounded by advisors eager to tip the balance in their favor. Court factions, led by the cunning eunuch Pothinus, quickly manipulated the young Ptolemy against his sister. Cleopatra's image was systematically erased from coins, official decrees, and even temple walls, as if she had never ruled at all. The palace echoed with whispers of betrayal, and the air grew thick with mistrust. Forced into exile, Cleopatra refused to accept defeat. She journeyed east, braving the harsh Syrian desert, where she began the arduous task of raising an army. Isolated but undeterred, she forged alliances with local leaders and mercenaries, determined to reclaim her birthright and restore her name to Egypt's legacy. Meanwhile, Egypt itself was unraveling. The kingdom's internal chaos left it dangerously exposed, just as the storm of Rome's civil war between Julius Caesar and Pompey swept across the Mediterranean. Foreign soldiers and shifting allegiances threatened to tear Egypt apart from within and without. Egypt's fertile fields and abundant grain made it the breadbasket of the ancient world. Rome, hungry for power and sustenance, saw Egypt's throne as a prize worth fighting for. Whoever controlled Egypt could tip the scales of power in the wider world. As Cleopatra plotted her return, fate intervened. Pompey, fleeing Caesar's relentless pursuit, sought refuge in Egypt, hoping for sanctuary and support from the young king and his advisors. Ptolemy's advisors, desperate to win Caesar's favor and secure their own positions, made a fateful decision. They ordered Pompey's murder, believing this ruthless act would earn them Rome's gratitude. Instead, it shocked the world and set off a chain of unintended consequences. When Caesar arrived in Alexandria and learned of Pompey's death, he was furious. The murder had not pleased him, it had only deepened the crisis. Suddenly, Egypt's royal feud was no longer a local affair. It had become a matter of Roman intervention and imperial ambition. Cleopatra's struggle for power was now entangled with the fate of the ancient world. The ambitions of Rome and the destiny of Egypt collided, and the outcome would shape history for centuries to come. With the world's eyes on Alexandria, Cleopatra prepared for her boldest move yet, a gamble that would test her cunning, courage, and resolve. The fate of Egypt, and perhaps the ancient world itself, would soon hinge on a single audacious gamble, one that would echo through history. With Caesar in Alexandria, Cleopatra faced a city locked against her. She devised a legendary plan, smuggled into Caesar's presence rolled in a carpet. Unfurled before the Roman general, her boldness and intellect captivated him instantly. This was no romantic whim, it was a calculated political maneuver. Cleopatra argued her case directly, outshining her brother's manipulated regime. Caesar, impressed, saw her as a valuable ally. Their alliance, political and personal, shifted the balance of power. With Roman support, Cleopatra defeated her brother in the Alexandrian War. Ptolemy XIII drowned fleeing the city. Cleopatra was restored to the throne, now ruling with a younger, more pliable brother. Egypt's queen had reclaimed her crown, but at the price of Roman entanglement. The partnership with Caesar would change her destiny, and Egypt's, forever. The world was watching. Cleopatra's alliance with Caesar was sealed by the birth of their son, Caesarion, a living symbol of Egypt and Rome united. Their victory tour down the Nile was a spectacle of power, reintroducing Cleopatra as Egypt's undisputed ruler. In Rome, her presence caused a sensation and scandal as Caesar openly acknowledged her and their child. Cleopatra's influence unsettled the Roman elite, fueling fears that Caesar might shift the empire's center to Alexandria. These anxieties contributed to the plot that ended with Caesar's assassination. Cleopatra's Roman chapter closed in blood and chaos. She returned to Egypt, her dreams for Caesarion's future shattered. The struggle for Egypt's survival was far from over, a new power struggle was about to begin. The assassination of Julius Caesar sent shockwaves through the ancient world, and for Cleopatra, it was a devastating blow. Suddenly the Queen of Egypt found herself isolated, her carefully laid plans for her son Caesarion's future shattered. With her greatest Roman ally gone, Cleopatra's position was more precarious than ever, and the fate of her dynasty hung in the balance. As Rome descended into chaos and civil war, Cleopatra acted swiftly and decisively. She eliminated her rivals at home, consolidating her grip on the Egyptian throne. Through cunning, diplomacy, and force, she ensured that her rule would not be challenged from within, even as the world outside her borders grew ever more unstable. Amidst the turmoil, a new power emerged in the east, Mark Antony, one of Rome's most formidable commanders. Cleopatra recognized in Antony both a potential threat and a unique opportunity to secure her kingdom's future. When Antony summoned her to Tarsus, Cleopatra made her entrance unforgettable. She sailed up the river in a magnificent barge adorned with gold and purple sails, surrounded by attendants dressed as gods and goddesses, dazzling not only Antony but the entire city with her wealth, power, and theatrical flair. Cleopatra presented herself not as a mere supplicant seeking favor, but as a living goddess, Venus incarnate to Antony's Dionysus. She radiated confidence and divine authority, captivating all who witnessed her arrival. Their meeting was a masterstroke of theater and politics, blending seduction with strategy. Cleopatra and Antony quickly discovered a shared ambition and a mutual respect for each other's power and intellect. Antony, utterly captivated, found in Cleopatra not just a lover, but a partner and a queen who could match his own ambitions. Together, they forged a powerful alliance that would shake the foundations of the ancient world. Their union was more than personal, it was political. The alliance between Egypt and Rome's eastern forces would reshape the balance of power across the Mediterranean, threatening the old order. Together, Cleopatra and Antony dreamed of reviving the glory of Alexander's Hellenistic Empire, ruling a vast new dynasty that would span continents and rival Rome itself. But their ambitions would soon bring them into direct conflict with Octavian, Caesar's adopted son and Rome's rising star, who saw their alliance as a threat to his own power. The stakes had never been higher. The fate of empires and the future of the ancient world now hung in the balance. As armies gathered and alliances shifted, the world braced for another epic clash of titans, one that would decide the destiny of Egypt, Rome, and the entire Mediterranean. Cleopatra and Antony's partnership was both passionate and political. Their children symbolized a new Eastern dynasty, challenging Rome's dominance. In 34 BCE, the donations of Alexandria stunned the world. Antony crowned Cleopatra Queen of Kings and distributed Eastern kingdoms to their children. Caesarion was declared Julius Caesar's legitimate heir. The spectacle was a direct affront to Rome and Octavian. Octavian seized on this, painting Antony as a traitor bewitched by a foreign queen. The stage was set for a final decisive confrontation. Cleopatra and Antony's dream of empire now threatened the very heart of Rome. The world's greatest powers were on a collision course. The fate of Egypt and the ancient world hung in the balance. Octavian turned Antony and Cleopatra's ambitions into a Roman nightmare, rallying the Senate against them. He declared war, not on Antony, but on Cleopatra, making her the face of Rome's enemy. The decisive moment came at the Battle of Actium in 31 BCE. Antony and Cleopatra's massive fleet was outmaneuvered by Octavian's admiral Agrippa. In a fateful move, Cleopatra's ships broke from the battle and fled. Antony followed, abandoning his fleet. Their forces collapsed and Octavian's victory was total. The dream of an Eastern empire was shattered. Egypt lay exposed, its fate sealed. Antony and Cleopatra's world was ending. Rome's new order was about to begin. The age of pharaohs was in its final hours. Defeated, Antony and Cleopatra retreated to Alexandria, their allies gone and hope fading. As Octavian's legions closed in, Antony, misled by rumors of Cleopatra's death, took his own life. Cleopatra, refusing the humiliation of a Roman triumph, chose her own end, legend says by asp bite. With her death, the Ptolemaic dynasty in pharaonic Egypt vanished after 3,000 years. Octavian executed Caesarion, ending any hope of a native heir. Cleopatra's other children were taken to Rome, their fate left to the victors. Egypt was annexed, its treasures flowing to Rome. Octavian became Augustus, the first Roman emperor. Cleopatra's story ended, but her legend was just beginning. The world she fought to save was lost to history, yet her name would echo through the ages. The queen was gone, but her myth endured. Cleopatra's story endures because she was more than a lover. She was a ruler who defied Rome at its height. Her defeat marked the end of the Hellenistic age and the dawn of the Roman Empire. She shattered expectations of female power, ruling for 2 decades with intelligence and resolve. Roman propaganda tried to diminish her, but history remembers her as a strategist and survivor. Her life was a drama of ambition, loyalty, and tragedy. Her choices shaped the fate of empires. Cleopatra's legacy is the fight for sovereignty against impossible odds. She remains a symbol of intelligence, strength, and defiance. The echo of Egypt's last queen still captivates the world.